you okay?
Yes, I'm okay.
Can I get you anything?
Water would be nice.
History happened everywhere. Hello, my name is Pete Goddard and I'm here in the HHE studio with the demolition derby to my roller derby. It's Mr. Ryan Weir.
That's right, it's because I'm quick on my feet.
No, you are disastrous for all vehicles.
Oh, yeah.
Never mind, one day an insurer will agree to cover you again. Now, last week, Ryan, the Derzolation gave us for episode 103 water in Abu Dhabi during the 1970s, one of the very best decades that gave us such wonders as me, decade of my birth.
And me as well, actually.
You too? Oh, you're a 70s child, are you?
Snuck in at the end there, yeah.
I thought you might have been 80s, but I
No,
knew
sir.
you were but a babe in arms in general.
It's our decade, Pete.
All right, well, we better do a super good episode then. But of course, our listeners are thirsty for knowledge, and that's fine because what a lot of facts we have for them today.
Nice.
So why don't you get us started with a trickle of tantalising teasers about what's to come when they stream today's episode.
Come on board as we prepare to find out how a scorching desert became the oasis for a modern metropolis. And this is going to be a deep dive, Pete, as we meet the tribes who settled a featureless island and discover how important water was to them. As a refreshing beverage, of course, but as a means of defence and the inspiration for a tidal wave of innovation to come that would wash away the old and sweep in the new. We're going to bridge the gap with a story about the construction of one of Abu Dhabi's most iconic landmarks, learn why toilets created a royal flush of problems for the nobility, and turn on the fact faucet with some outpourings on how you can dine in the desert like a snackish shake. All this and more flowing through your ears like a river of knowledge. Welcome to the land of the gazelle. Welcome to the Manhattan of the Middle East. Welcome to Abu Dhabs.
Well, Ryan, that is intriguing stuff and incredible amount of water-related wordage there. I think you did well. I think we both had similar ideas. And doesn't water lend itself to many, many ways of referencing itself?
It certainly does, and I hope that that was the last of it.
Yes, I think it is. I've certainly put a stop to mine. Now, Ryan, before we get started, I need to know where we are. What, where, how is Abu Dhabi?
All right, so Abu Dhabi, or to give its official name, the Emirate of Abu Dhabi. It's one of 7 states that comprise a larger entity called the United Arab Emirates, the UAE. And you can find it on a map by going to the Middle East and finding the coast of the Arabian Gulf, and it's right there, sandwiched between Saudi Arabia on the left and Iran on the right. Of the 7 emirates in the UAE, Abu Dhabi is by far the largest, with an area that covers 67,000 square kilometres, meaning you could fit 8 Abu Dhabis in a France.
That's interesting because it's often not the one that leaps to mind when you're thinking of UAE, because Dubai is kind of the first to mind for a Western person, I think.
Yes, I think so. In our common understanding, I think Dubai is sort of pushed out there a bit more.
But much smaller, you say?
Yes, indeed. Now, think of Abu Dhabi, and you're probably going to think of 3 things: oil, sand, and skyscrapers. And that's a pretty good summary of it because 80% of the emirate is sandy desert. That's about 75 quintillion grains of sand, Pete.
Are we sure? I'll validate that number. I'll be right back.
Well, you'll need to come back in 2.38 trillion years because that's what I calculated how long it would take you to count all of them without any breaks.
Well, I better get started, didn't I? No breaks? Oh, come on, man.
Well, that's how we roll, Pete. No breaks for us. Now, Abu Dhabi holds 9% of the entire world's oil reserves. How about that?
It's percentagely, if someone said of 9% or something, it doesn't feel like a lot. But when you think of all the world's oil, suddenly that seems like a very significant thing to have.
It is a significant amount. It equates to about 92 billion barrels all sitting underneath the desert, worth an estimated 7.4 trillion Trump dollars.
Wow, that's... I wonder if I've got anything like that in my backyard.
Probably a barrel, at least.
I'll go. I should be digging right now instead of wasting my time with this podcasting nonsense.
Exactly. Get yourself a derrick in the garden. Oh, that sounds like a sketch idea. I'm going to take that back. Hey, Pete, Derek's in the garden.
There's a Derek in the garden. Nice.
Right. And finally, of course, the city of Abu Dhabi is filled with giant buildings, loads of skyscrapers, Pete, including the Burj Mohammed bin Rashid building, which is the 25th largest building in the world. The Capitol Gate, which holds the Guinness World Record for being the world's furthest leaning man-made tower. It leans 5 times more than the Leaning Tower of Pisa.
Is that a thing that architects are competing over these days?
I guess so. I mean, there's got to be a point where you're just lying sideways.
That's just a low-slung building on the ground, isn't it?
Yeah. Anyway, the final one there is the Alder headquarters, which is the world's first circular skyscraper. And it looks like a giant blue coin.
Sounds amazing.
It's an amazing place. Now, Abu Dhabi is home to around 3 million people. 80% of that are foreigners, all drawn to Abu Dhabi to come live in one of the wealthiest and tax-free economies in the world.
I like the sound of that. Tax is painful to pay, although also good to pay. I'm a supporter of tax.
I've never paid tax, Pete, so I don't know why anybody's bothering.
Well,
just don't pay it.
One day, Ryan, you'll have a job and then tax will be a part of your life.
Exactly. That's my trick.
Can't tax what I don't earn.
Exactly. Yes. Now, the currency is the dirham, Arabic is the language, Islam the religion, and the official emblem is the golden falcon.
Oh.
A nod to when their Bedouin ancestors used to hunt with falcons.
Nice.
Yeah, nice indeed. Now, I wasn't sure that Abu Dhabi had a flag, but it certainly does, and it is a plain red background with a small white rectangle in the top left corner.
Really?
Really?
Sounds like it looks unfinished.
It does indeed, yeah. It looks very blank. Anyway, Abu Dhabi doesn't have its own anthem, but if it were to have one, it would probably feature an oud.
An oud?
Yes, it's a string instrument. A bit like a guitar, but with a big round bottom. Do you like big round bottoms, Pete?
I love big round bottoms in my instruments.
Good. Now, if I were to nominate an oud-based anthem for Abu Dhabi, it would probably be Zayed's Dream by Faisal Al-Sari. And it sounds a little something like this.
Oh, I was expecting something a bit softer than that. That's a powerful opening.
At 18 minutes long, Pete, Zayed's Dream was composed as a tribute to Sheikh Zayed bin Sultan Al Nahyan, the founding father of the UAE, who passed away in 2004.
Oh, we'll be coming back to him, don't you worry.
I'm sure we will. Now, the song features Al-Zari playing the oud himself, while accompanied by a 120-piece orchestra.
Wow.
Now, this is the first of 3 movements in the song, and it represents Abu Dhabi's challenges and successes as they moved through the 1970s and the 1980s.
Oh, well, that's appropriate for our time period.
Now, I did say it was 18 minutes long, so we're going to end it a little bit there. But how about that for a national anthem, Pete?
I like it a great deal. Well done, everyone. Congratulations, the oud.
Now, Pete, you know what comes up next?
Is it Abu Dhabi
Abu
Facts?
Dhabi Facts!
Yes, it is.
It is. It's Abu Dhabi Facts. Now, what do you do if you get lost in the desert?
Die.
Incorrect.
I think, speaking for myself, I'm still quite confident that is a correct answer, but
no.
Explain more.
The correct answer is have a gourmet meal.
Ooh.
Yeah, you weren't expecting that, were you?
preferable.
Yeah. Now, as we have said, Pete, the Emirate of Abu Dhabi is largely an empty wasteland with temperatures that regularly reach around 45 degrees. That's 113 degrees Fahrenheit. It's pretty warm.
That is too hot for me, thank you very much.
Yeah, so look, if you find yourself lost in the sand dunes, you might think that all hope of a Michelin star meal is lost.
That is my general assumption. I wouldn't munch on a date for 8 days, as per our previous episodes,
Yeah.
but that's all I'm expecting right now.
Yes, well, there are certain foods that can be found in the deserts of Abu Dhabi. The first off is the king of dates, which we've talked about previously, the medjool, a large sweet date that can be found growing on a specific palm tree in the desert. And not only that, it's an expensive treat too. A kilo of medjool sells for about $50 in the market.
I suspect if someone's just staggered out of the desert, you can charge whatever you want.
Indeed, yeah. Now, next up, honey. Now, to my surprise, there are apparently bees in the desert.
Oh, yeah, the desert bee, obviously.
The famous desert bee. Yeah, now I thought you'd need like fields of flowers for bees to thrive. But in Abu Dhabi, there are indeed bees which thrive in the desert, and they don't collect nectar from flowers, they collect it from trees. and there is one bee in particular that takes nectar from a tree called the samar tree, and they turn this nectar into a deep caramel like honey, which is super delicious and also very expensive. Retails for around $100 a jar.
Crikey. I don't really love honey, so I'm going to leave that.
Another ingredient for our sandy feast, Pete, a mushroom that grows on moisture left after rare winter rains.
Wow.
Yeah, it's known as the desert truffle, and it's a Bedouin delicacy. Sells in markets for around $1,500 a kilo.
Is there anything cheap in the desert, or is it just an expensive place to get groceries?
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to find a lot to get a kilo of mushrooms. Anyway, finally, caviar, fish eggs.
That seems unlikely, but tell me more.
It does seem unlikely, but not in Abu Dhabi, because it turns out that the desert of Abu Dhabi is home to one of the world's largest sustainable caviar farms. It produces a beluga caviar that sells for around $15,000 a kilo.
I think the heartbreaking thing would be finally arriving, having gone through the dry and dusty desert at a store and then not being able to afford anything that was available.
Yeah, that's true. I think I'd be having like hallucinations if I was walking along and saw a caviar farm. I'd be like, this cannot be real.
Well, I'll just leave that. Forget that.
Yeah.
It must be my imagination.
Yeah. Now, finally, Pete, a trip through the desert could get you into space? Question mark?
I'm glad you enunciated your punctuation there. I wasn't sure that was a question.
Yeah.
How, Ryan? Tell me more.
Well, Abu Dhabi is famous for being used as a location for a number of space-based movies. You might have seen it as the desert planet of Jakku in the 2015 movie Star Wars: The Force Awakens, and also the desert planet of Arrakis in the 2021 version of
Dune.
Dune, exactly. But that is not what I mean when I say it can get you into space. In 2023, Abu Dhabi announced a partnership with Virgin Galactic to build a spaceport in the desert oasis of Al Ain, where they plan to have rockets that will take astronauts off Earth and into space.
This does feel like the beginnings of where sci-fi roots lie, doesn't it?
Does indeed.
A spaceport in the desert, come on.
Amazing, right? Now, the plans are to first launch satellites, then deposit cremated remains in space. That's their next big money-making venture. And then they're going to host suborbital flights for tourists at $450,000 a seat, before eventually they're going to build a city on Mars by 2117.
That is some significant forward planning.
I think they should call it Abu Dhabi 2.
Hey! You got it in there in quite an innovative way, I'll give you that. Hey Pete.
Hey Ryan. So the garden's covered in sand, I've put up the tent and I set out some dates to eat, so I think we're ready for our first guest.
All right, good work. You know what, I have to hand it to you. This Bedouin breakfast idea of yours, it's brilliant.
Yeah, I know, right? It's a Bedouin winner.
Yeah, with all this Middle Eastern investment coming to Croydon, there's going to be rich shakes a go-go here, and we're going to be ready to capitalise, giving them the traditional heritage B&B experience.
Exactly.
And they're rich, so we can just charge them whatever we want.
Brilliant.
All right, so what time are we expecting the first guest?
Guest?
Yeah, when are they arriving? I need to move the rubbish bins so they'll have somewhere to park the camel.
Ah, well, we haven't actually had any bookings yet.
What? Really?
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? I thought we'd be inundated with bookings by now.
Well, yeah, me too. I mean, with the Middle Eastern boom that's coming to Croydon, like you said, then Oh, wait, Ryan, there is a Middle Eastern boom coming to Croydon, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and how exactly do you know there's a Middle Eastern boom coming?
Well, there's a new Shake Shack that's just opened on the high street.
The burger place.
And the local theatre's advertising an Oasis gig.
Oh, Ryan, neither of those things are Middle Eastern.
And last week I saw a man riding a camel down the street.
And you're sure it was a camel?
Yeah.
Right, and just for fun, can you describe this camel?
Yeah, you know, big, brown, 4 legs.
Okay, good, but did it have a hump?
A hump? No.
Right, and I'm just checking, but did it look like something a cowboy might ride?
Yeah, a camel.
Oh, Ryan, I've told you before, that is a horse. Cowboys ride horses.
No, they definitely ride camels.
All right, name one film where John Wayne rides a camel.
Legend of the Lost, made in 1957.
See, you can't... What, really?
Yeah.
Oh, right. Well, look, it doesn't matter anyway, because I think it's safe to say there isn't any Middle Eastern boom coming to Croydon, is there?
No.
And we're not going to get rich sheikhs coming to stay with us, are we?
Probably not, no.
Right. Well, I suppose at least this total waste of time didn't cost us too much money, so that's something.
Yeah, I do have one question though.
Yeah, what's that?
Well, if we're not getting any sheikhs coming to stay, what am I going to do with all these boxes of caviar and truffles I bought? I've got loads of the stuff.
What? Ryan!
Hi-ho, camel, and away!
Might make a caviar sandwich.
All right, Peter, well, look, I think we're oriented now, are we not?
We are.
Okay, well, good. Well, then, look, why don't you tell us about where it came from? Who was first there? Why did they do the things? When did they do the things? I just want to know history. Tell me the history, Pete.
Well, Ryan, it will not shock you to learn there have been people in this area for bloomin' ages.
That does surprise me, frankly. I don't think many people should be living in the desert.
Well, let's go back to 2011.
Wait, what?
In 2011, primitive hand axes and some other tools were excavated at a place called Jebel Fayar, which is an archaeological site, and they were dated at 125,000 years old, Ryan.
That's ludicrous. The Earth isn't even that old.
That is very flippin' old. It's actually some of the earliest evidence of modern humans found anywhere outside of Africa.
Amazing.
Yeah, the early man gets the axe, as they say.
That is the famous saying.
Okay, so now we've got to fast forward past an ice age that rendered the area uninhabitable, and then another version of early man shows up in a period called the Hafit period, and then we come to the Bronze Age. So we're now between 2,500 and 2000 BCE, and there's a small island by Abu Dhabi called an-Nar, which was home to a relatively large settlement of people, and they left stuff behind, as people do.
Like what?
Various items have been found in another archaeological site from the Bronze Age, which has given name to the culture of the period, and-Nar culture. It's jewellery, necklaces, a gold hairpin, copper weapons, but also, interestingly, imported and local pottery and fish hooks and net sinkers. So it tells us a few things. That people were kind of reliant on water for their survival, so they ate and fished for a living, essentially.
I'm surprised that they didn't find USB chargers, because that's what I always leave behind in a hotel.
Yeah, that's true, actually. I've got a drawer that's going to baffle archaeologists for
Yeah.
years to come. But yeah, the other thing that's interesting about this is that they were part of the sea route. So they were trading even back then with lands like Mesopotamia, so Iraq in modern day, and the Indus Valley civilization, so Pakistan, India today. And that was 2,500 years ago.
That's amazing, isn't it? The clash of cultures and...
Yeah, totally different cultures. You know, the globalization is a real thing nowadays, isn't you? Kind of very few surprises to be had. Today, this location, Ryan, is between a military site and an oil refinery. So sadly, you are not able to visit it. You just have to trust that the archaeologists know what they're doing.
You say I can't visit it, but my little rubber dinghy says otherwise.
All right, give it a go. Let me know how you get on.
Okay.
So after about 600 years or so, the and-Nar culture is replaced by the Wadi Suk culture, which rules the roost from 2000 to 1300 BCE. They basically improve things a bit, better metallurgy, better pottery, and just kind of advanced technology, as is the case most of the stories we've seen.
All right.
They also at this time start cultivating crops and domesticate camels, although my experience with camels makes me wonder if that was ever really truly achieved.
Yeah, they're quite hard to domesticate, I imagine, because they kind of just want to do their own thing, and they're very big.
They are big, angry creatures from what I've seen of them. But as a consequence of this domestication, people start to move a little bit more inland, taking them away from the coasts. And that takes them to an area which is an oasis, a bit inland, called Liwa Oasis, which is found in Abu Dhabi today.
Very cool. There's a festival in Liwa where people take all of their 4x4 cars and race up sand dunes to see who can get to the top first.
Oh, right. Okay, that's cool. So that's interesting because it gives us a connection of today to the source of a tribe that's really important in our story called the Bani Yas tribe. So they have what they consider their ancestral home in Liwa Oasis.
Oh, really? Okay.
So they raised camels and other livestock, and they farmed dates and they farmed crops. But in 1761, it's believed that some members of the Bani Yas tribe, and by tribe, it's actually a confederation of tribes. So actually this was a subset called the Al-Bu-Falah subset. They discovered a source of drinking water on a remote island surrounded by mangroves that was accessible only by boat.
Right.
The story goes that the tribespeople were led to water on this island by a gazelle.
Ah, land of the gazelle.
Yes, exactly. This island was originally known to the Bani Yas as Mleh, which is their word for salt, possibly after the Sabco or salt plains that were a feature of the area. But after the water was found and the gazelle business, the tribes moved into the area and they called their new home Abu Dhabi.
No way. Okay, so built on salt.
It was certainly one of the features of the area. The water was the key change in behaviour. It was then somewhere we could feasibly live on a consistent basis.
Right.
I guess this Abu Dhabi development was quite successful because in the 1790s, Sheikh Shakbut bin Diab Al Nahyan becomes the ruler of Abu Dhabi, and in 1795, Abu Dhabi Island becomes the capital of the Bani Yas Tribal Confederation.
Okay, makes sense.
Now, 25 years later, in 1820 now, there was a general treaty of peace and various other treaties that were signed between the British government and the rulers of all of the sheikdoms in the area. So we're talking Abu Dhabi, Dubai, Sharjah, all those sort of Emirati type communities. So they signed deals with the British, and they became known at that time as the Trucial States, named after the truce.
Oh, really? Is that what the Trucial States means?
Yeah. So the truce in question was basically that the states would become British protectorates. Britain could then protect communities, but also protect its trade routes and, unsurprisingly, sort of further its own interests. It wasn't necessarily entirely.
There's that word protectorate.
Yes.
Also known as a protection racket.
Yeah, well, this one seems to have been a reasonably decent deal, to be honest with you, but I won't dive too deep into that. Speaking of diving, into the 19th century, diving for pearls continues to be a really important aspect of life and the local economy. But that goes a bit wrong. The Japanese in the 1930s invents cultured pearls. So you can now make pearls at home, or not necessarily at home, but the ability to culture pearls really hammers the pearl diving industry, unsurprisingly. So yeah, the pearl diving business got the stuffing knocked out of it, basically. So the area was really in need of a replacement for this pearl industry.
Okay.
Well, happy news. In 1936, Sheikh Shakbut bin Sultan Al Nahyan signs a deal with the Petroleum Development Trucial Coast Limited, PDTC, to explore for oil. It's a gamble, but it might just work.
Yeah. It's interesting. So they must have known there was oil there then.
My suspicion is that the characteristics were there for oil, but nobody was certain, because the exploration goes through the 1940s and into the 1950s. Oil wasn't discovered until 1958, and I assume that means commercially volumes of oil. 1958, the Shaif field was found. 1959, an onshore field at Murban number 3 was found. 62, it was found in Buhasa. 63, the Lower Zakum oil fields were discovered. So yeah, oil was found.
Wow.
So yeah, you might think that this would change things, but maybe it won't. The sitting sheikh was viewed as not necessarily wanting to spend this new oil money on developing his nation. So in 1966, now there are different versions of what happened here. The government of Abu Dhabi say that there was just a general gentle handover of power. Wikipedia says there was a bloodless coup. In any event, the previous sheikh's brother, Sheikh Zayed bin Sultan Al Nahyan, was installed as the new ruler of Abu Dhabi with a little help from the British.
Right. Okay. On their way out the door.
Sheikh Zayed, keep an eye on him. He is going to be very important.
Okay.
So in 1968, Britain kind of surprises people when it says it's leaving the area completely, but that change brings new possibilities, and Sheikh Zayed becomes a driving force, and he is really the key character in the formation of an alliance of the Emirates, the creation of the United Arab Emirates as a nation state.
Right, bringing them all together.
Brought them all together. It coalesced in 1971 with the creation of the UAE, and Sheikh Zayed was appointed its first president, and he stayed in that role right up until 2004, when his rule was interrupted by the slight impediment of his death.
Yeah. That would end it.
Yeah, but whilst he was alive, it is fair to say Zayed invested just incredibly in developing his country into a modern powerhouse. Really changed the face of the place incredibly, but also with a view to being conscious of the need to preserve the Emirati culture as well. He's such an important figure in the history of Abu Dhabi today. He's omnipresent in modern Abu Dhabi. Streets, buildings, pretty much anything you can hang a sign on is probably named after him, to be honest with you. And not for nothing is he known as the father of the nation. It's kind of like being a lottery winner at a national level. Your nation state has won the oil lottery. So it's like, how many lottery winners go off the rails and then just spend it on the stupid stuff and don't invest and plan for the future? You know, they could easily have done that, but Zayed bin Sultan Al Nahyan had a real focus on sustainable development, for what I can see. And as a consequence, he seems to have done incredible work. He was succeeded by initially his oldest son, Sheikh Khalifa bin Zayed bin Sultan Al Nahyan. He died in 2022, and then another Sheikh Zayed son took over, Mohammed bin Zayed bin Sultan Al Nahyan.
Right, keeping it in the family.
Yes, exactly. That's. I mean, it is not a democracy. It is a kingdom. Well, not quite a kingdom, but it is a royal family. But they've come a long way. From 1971, the formation of the state to this modern, as you said, city of skyscrapers is an unbelievable change in what is effectively my lifetime. So that they did it with a view to sustainable development, with a view to the sort of general well-being, I think is pretty impressive. So I would have to say, Zayed, I understand why his name is on everything. He's certainly an incredible character from what I can make out.
Yeah, foundational to the United Arab Emirates, but also to Abu Dhabi.
Absolutely. So today, Abu Dhabi, a significant modern city. It's got oil, but it's got tourism, it's got the desert, it's got
culture, heritage.
It's a remarkable place. Zayed, we salute you.
We Abu Dhabi do. I'm going to end every section.
Every single one. You do it. I back you. I support you in this.
Thank you very much.
Ahmed, look, over there, a gazelle.
Ah, well spotted, Khalid. I shall fetch my bow.
What? No, we should follow it. It will most surely lead us to water.
Oh, this again.
What?
Well, we can't keep following random animals around the desert, hoping they're going to magically guide us to water.
Why not? I think it's a very sound strategy.
Oh, you do you? Right, so in the past 10 years, how many times has chasing an animal led us anywhere even remotely useful? Exactly.
Well, there was that red fox that led us to its den, remember that?
Oh, you mean the hole in the sand during a sandstorm?
Yeah.
You think that was a success?
We found some bones.
Oh yeah, very helpful. And what about the oryx? Remember the Follow the Oryx plan? 10 people died, Khalid. 10!
Yes, mistakes have been made, but the theory is sound.
Is it? Well, what about the vulture you insisted we follow?
Well, how was I supposed to know he was following us?
We walked in circles for 4 days.
Okay, yeah, that one's on me.
The point is, we've never been led to anything more useful than a pile of dried dung, a rotting carcass, or a slightly cooling breeze.
Look, all I'm saying is, look at that gazelle. Those eyes, that posture. He knows where the water is. Don't you, boy?
You've lost it. You've gone mad with thirst.
Shh, he's on the move. Come on, this is it, Ahmed. I can feel it. This is the big one. We'll have so much water, No, you shot him!
Yeah, bullseye.
That gazelle was our ticket to limitless water. We could have found a whole new land, built a future, a legacy for our entire tribe.
Or dinner.
This is outrageous. I can't believe it. Oh, look, a scorpion. Oh, he looks like he knows where he's going. Don't you, little guy? Oh, are you? Are you thirsty, boy? Are you? Stop doing that! Okay, Ryan, we now know where we are, we know what happened, we know how we got here, we've marvelled at the developments, but we're here to talk about water in the 1970s, a fortuitous decade, I must say. Why don't you tell us what you've got?
Yeah, okay, but first of all, we need to travel back a little further than the 1970s, Pete. We need to go back to the 1960s.
Oh, I thought you were going to say 20 million years ago.
Yeah, I know, I was teasing you with that. Now, I would like you to imagine you and I, Pete, standing with our feet in the sand of the Abu Dhabi shoreline.
I can imagine that.
The waves breaking over our feet.
Oh, me tootsies.
Caw, caw.
Hark, the seagull.
Yeah. Now, we are standing in a little cove near a village called Albertine on a bleak stretch of coastline that will one day, let's say around 2025, be known as Corniche.
That sounds fancy. I've been on a Corniche. It's a kind of walkway by the sea, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's where tourists will one day gather to stretch out on sunbeds and sip mojitos and top up their tans while debating which mall to visit for their next Rolex.
That is a good question.
But now, why are we here, Pete, in Abu Dhabi in the 60s, standing in the water like a couple of, sun-scorched Englishmen?
I don't know. You invited me paddling. I just came.
Well, it's low tide, and that means we're here to do a job.
Oh, I've got a job now. Oh,
that's right.
Curses.
Now, we are unloading heavy boxes of cargo from passing ships.
Oh, man, you promised me we were going to be paddling and drinking mojitos.
Yeah, no, that's a few years later. No, we are trudging through the sea, across the sand, and up to some empty donkey carts, which are waiting to take these heavy crates into town.
Boo. Fine, whatever.
Now, it doesn't sound very glamorous, Pete, and that's because it's not. but it is important work. So while we're sweating and hungry and wishing we were literally anywhere else, these boxes we're lugging around are carrying essential products for our people. Some are packed with medicines from Europe, some with rice from the Orient, some with books, others tinned goods. Basically all the stuff the people of Abu Dhabi need to survive that isn't just dates, honey, and mushrooms.
Or caviar.
or indeed caviar. Now, getting these goods in isn't easy, right? There are no highways, there are no airports. All trade in and out of the country has to be carried in by guess who?
Us.
Exactly.
It's a living, I suppose.
It is. And we're lugging them in from boats that have travelled weeks to get here. Boats that can't even get close enough to drop their cargo on the shore because it is incredibly shallow. So we're having to just roll up our trousers, watch out for sharks, and heave this cargo onto land so that it can continue its journey across the desert by donkey. This, Pete, is the reality of Abu Dhabi in the 1960s. It is a backwater completely at the mercy of the tides, and its ridiculously shallow shore.
I hate this job.
But wait, Pete!
What?
I've just got some news.
You're not supposed to be reading the paper. We're supposed to be humping boxes. Get back to work.
This is good news. I've got some news from Ahmed, the donkey cart driver. And you are not going to believe this, Pete.
What is it?
Apparently, he heard from Mohammed, the Bedouin, that Zareki told him that during a journey to Al Ain, Mustafa, the date palm guy,
Yeah, I know Mustafa.
he was talking about Saeed, the rug merchant.
Oh, Saeed.
Yeah, he'd overheard from his wife, Fatima, that oil has been discovered.
No.
Yeah, and get this, apparently it's worth a lot of cash. Like, a lot.
Oh, it'll never change anything around here.
Well, apparently, Pete, our leader, Sheikh Zayed bin Sultan Al Nahyan,
Love him.
well, he has decided he's going to start spending some of that cash on our pitiful excuse for a harbour.
Nice.
Yeah. Now, apparently, Fatima said that he said, no limitations, only potential. So that's good news, right? Things are about to change.
Am I still going to have a job carrying boxes to and from the shore?
Things are about to change.
Hooray!
And they sure do, because as the 1960s come to an end, a plan is made to build a port that is so massive and so modern that it would make Abu Dhabi an envy of the world, capable of handling the container throughput of approximately 4.91 million 20-foot units a year, equating to 109,589 metric tons of general cargo every day, and reflecting 13% growth year on year between the years 2020 to 2025.
I am willing to retrain as a crane operator.
It is a plan that is going to not only transform our jobs, but also the area and the entire flipping country.
Nice. This place needs transformation. I'm sick of this running out with boxes up and down the shore. It's nonsense.
It is, but there's a problem, Pete.
Oh, no.
Yeah, the waters that run in this part of the Gulf are not very deep. Certainly not deep enough for a big cargo ship to come in and dock and unload. Hence why we're ankle deep lugging boxes through the waves. But to make things worse, the entire seabed is a maze of sandbars and silt that are constantly shifting around, right? As the sea moves, the sand moves. And that makes life impossible for any cargo captains that want to navigate their boat towards land.
Yeah, true. Sands are famously shifting, are they not?
They are. But if Sheikh Zayed bin Sultan Al Nahyan wants a harbour he shall have. And so, in 1967, engineers start working out how the heck they are going to remove 45 million cubic metres of sand from the seafloor. That's enough sand to build 18 Great Pyramids of Giza, or bury Central Park in New York City 13 metres deep.
That'd be incredible.
So, stumped, they turn to the Dutch.
Well, obviously. Who else would you turn to?
Well, exactly, because they are a people known for reclaiming land from the sea. They've been doing it for hundreds of years, primarily because a third of the Netherlands is under sea level, and they've had to learn pretty quickly how to manage the sea or just risk being washed away.
Yeah, they very much moved into the sea in a way that most of us have not aspired to do, haven't they, the Dutch?
Yes, indeed. In fact, the Dutch are so good at land reclamation that 17% of their country's land is man-made from the sea. That's amazing, isn't it?
That's incredible.
Yeah, they spend €1 billion a year to maintain it. And they have an extensive system of dikes, pumps and barriers. You ever seen a Dutch dike?
I have. Moving on.
But anyway, that is why they are the world experts, and that is why they're in Abu Dhabi. They have got huge mechanical diggers, and they've got suction dredgers with pipes that are wide enough to swallow a Honda Accord. Other cars are available.
That was an interesting selection.
Yeah, but it wasn't easy digging, and the Dutch workers struggled with the summer temperatures. Apparently the temperatures reached over 50 degrees at times, 122 degrees Fahrenheit, which was so hot that apparently they reported that the rubber soles of their boots kept on melting on the metal decks of their ships.
Ooh, yeah, that's not Dutch-type weather, is it?
No. They had to stop during sandstorms too. Apparently they would suddenly appear without warning and then just bury their equipment overnight.
Oh, can you imagine? Shelter from the storm, and then you come and go, oh, where's the digger? Ah, we've lost the
Where did you
digger.
put it? Yeah, and that's without mentioning all the basic logistical, nightmares that there are attached with working in the desert, like having no fresh water, no power grid, and no proper roads.
Yeah, nothing but dates and honey to live on.
Exactly, caviar. Now, at its peak, 10,000 workers were dredging the sea. Some came from Holland, but most came from India, Pakistan, and the Philippines, all living in camps with corrugated tin roofs that apparently amplified the heat and baked them overnight.
Nice. Free accommodation.
Exactly. Now, overseeing the project was Sheikh Zayed himself. He wasn't just content just writing the checks, Pete. He wanted to be actively involved in the construction. And so he would often appear, just sometimes without warning, and sometimes at 2 a.m, just to check on the pace of construction and ask engineers about concrete mixes, ask for specifics on the tensile strength of roof materials, depth check in the seafloor. Apparently, he said, "The sea is not our master. We are the masters here."
Oof.
Inspirational, right?
Yeah, he was no dilettante, was he? He got involved.
Undertones of King Canute, though, right?
The medieval king who said, I will hold back the tide, and then failed to do so?
Yes, that guy.
Little bit.
Anyway, so inspired through all this chaos of heat, sand and sweat, the workers eventually finished construction of the port in 1972.
Ooh.
Hurrah! So, the first ships soon arrive, and they bring goods from around the world, Pete. Cranes from Germany, forklifts from Japan, steel from Sweden, marble from Italy, and of course, toilets from England.
Of course, our finest export. What do you think when you think Great Britain? Toilet.
Now, side note, these toilets were something of a bit of an embarrassment for the project, and it is now known as the Great Toilet Ship Debacle of 1972.
I would like to know more. Please subscribe me to Toilet Facts.
Toilet Facts! Well, the story goes that there was a British freighter which was carrying porcelain toilets for Abu Dhabi's first luxury hotel, and it was scheduled to arrive at the port. But as it approached, the captain was scared that the water hadn't been dug out deep enough, and the ship was going to become run aground. So he turned off the engines, he weighed anchor, and he just refused to come into port. Now, on shore, this caused a bit of a panic. This was more than just the delivery of toilets, it was the first real test of whether the port could actually function. And so, when Sheikh Zayed eventually heard that the ship was refusing to enter the port, he ordered emergency dredging.
Ooh, that sounds very toilet appropriate. I'm going to need some emergency dredging.
Just go into the bathroom, emergency dredging. So, workers went back out to sea in their dredgers, and they spent the next 24 hours deepening the channel. Now, in the morning, the toilet ship captain, as I'm sure he'd love to be called, was asked to reconsider bringing the ship in, and feeling more confident, probably with a stack of cash in his back pocket, he sailed in and docked at the port.
Hurrah!
Exactly. Now, Sheikh Zayed and his team gathered to watch and erupted in cheers as hundreds of toilets started to be unloaded.
4 years at Captain College and he's the toilet captain.
Yeah, exactly. Now, by 1978, the port, now known as Mina Zayed, had 12 berths, so it could accommodate 12 big ships. And these are cargo ships, Pete, big ones from around the world.
Not just for toilets, they could land anything.
Anything, but toilets too. And with every delivery, the history of Abu Dhabi changed completely. The 1980s saw the rise of skyscrapers that were made with cement that had passed through Mina Zayed. Hospitals were stocked with medicines, again imported by ship. And when the population quadrupled in less than a decade, it was Mina Zayed that fed them all. Abu Dhabi had transformed from a sleepy fishing village to a global metropolis. But as the UAE grew in size and power, Mina Zayed faced the challenge of competing megaports. These were ports that were built in Dubai and Sharjah, other emirates, which now claimed much of the shipping traffic. Those 12 berths suddenly became nothing when they're looking at 48 to 62 berths. And eventually the pace at which Mina Zayed had once operated started to slow down. But rather than fading into history, the port continues to operate today, but in a slightly different way. It's turned many of its warehouses into art galleries and cultural spaces. There is a fish market still, and that operates, but it's surrounded by seafood restaurants that will grill you any kind of the fresh fish that you buy from the market. And there is still the original control tower, where Sheikh Zayed once looked down on the construction of the port, but now controls the flow of luxury yachts rather than the giant freighters of days gone by. So yeah, Pete, while you and I stand here in the waters of Abu Dhabi in 1960, lugging our boxes through the sea, at least we know that things are about to get a lot easier. And maybe one day we can visit the port and enjoy a karak tea from a portside coffee shop, have a meal in a restaurant, or look out across the harbour's water to admire the awesome dome of the Louvre Museum sitting opposite. And we can think back on these humble beginnings and be reminded that Mina Zayed was an impressive achievement, born out of a touch of beautiful madness. And that, Peter, is how you build a port that builds a nation.
Nice. As a one-time sand porter, I look forward to visiting a seafood restaurant on the harbour side and being told I cannot possibly afford anything they have to offer.
You are very poor. How are you so poor?
Abu Dhabi, screw you. Come.
Captain, you wanted to see me?
Yes, Simpson. I've been reviewing your service record.
Oh, have I done something wrong, sir?
No, quite the opposite. You've shown dedication, perseverance, and an unwavering loyalty to this crew.
Oh, well, thank you, sir. That means a great deal.
And you've been waiting a long time for a promotion, haven't you?
Yes, sir.
Well, I'm delighted to tell you your wait is over. I've a job for you that is of the utmost importance.
Really, sir?
Indeed. A mission that could shape the very future of diplomacy in the Middle East.
Well, sir, I don't know what to say.
You've earned this, Simpson, and I need someone I can trust. Someone with your courage and integrity.
You can count on me, sir.
Good man. You sail at dawn.
Understood, sir. What is the mission, if I may ask?
Well, you're headed to Abu Dhabi
Wonderful.
to deliver a boatload of toilets.
I'm sorry, what?
Toilets, Simpson. Toilets.
Oh, right.
Delivering toilets to Abu Dhabi is a crucial mission, Simpson. Top priority. And a top priority mission needs a top man.
Right.
So, getting to the bottom of it, I'm making you my number 2.
Number 2. Right. Very good, sir. Well, I must say it is an honour to be privy to such a mission.
Good. Now get this mission right, Simpson, and you might be in the running for Commodore.
Well, I would be bowled over by that, sir. Flushed with success.
Well, don't let it go to your head.
No, sir, no. I won't let it drive me potty.
Good. We wouldn't want you getting bogged down by the mission.
No, I wouldn't let it get me down in the dumps.
Exactly. There's a steaming pile of work to do.
Well, I'll plunge right into it then, sir.
That's the wife spirit.
I do my best, sir.
All right, just don't make an arse out of me.
No, sir. I will do my duty.
Excellent. Well, good luck delivering the toilets to Abu Dhabi.
Thank you, sir. I'll be back by Saturday.
What?
Saturday, sir. Get it? Saturday?
This isn't a joking matter, Simpson. I thought you were a serious candidate. Do not make me change my mind. Just get those toilets delivered to Abu Dhabi immediately.
Oh, right. You were being serious.
Deadly.
Crap.
Simpson.
Well, there you go, Pete. That is my story of how a port changed an emirate. What's your story?
Well, water is a great topic, really, because it's everywhere and it plays an incredible number of roles in human life and history, as I'm sure you've realised with a brief moment of thinking about it. So in my section, I'm going to talk about the changing role of water in Abu Dhabi and the way a particular aspect of water signified this tremendous change that you've already talked about. So I'm going to talk about water as protection.
Oh.
So throughout history, water's provided a natural barrier to invasion for people. So Japan is protected from the marauding Mongols by the Sea of Japan, when monsoons sunk invading hordes twice in the 1200s. Likewise, in the UK in 1588, the Spanish Armada came to grief in the shores around Britain.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, it takes you ages. People can see you coming from really far away.
No, that's true. And it's like, oh, they'll be here. Someone put lunch on.
Yeah, exactly.
And it doesn't even have to be natural water. Ryan, I know you're an aficionado of a moat, a ring of protective water.
I love moats. I'm going to have a moat put around my house.
I think you should.
It's worrying, though, because I live on the 18th floor.
You have to have one of those pools just all the way around. Worst moat ever. And it was no different for the Baniyas, the collection of tribes who first found the drinkable water on Abu Dhabi. One of the things they liked about it was the island was cut off from the mainland by a creek or a waterway, which was known as the Khor al-Makta.
The Khor al-Makta. That's a fun-sounding name.
It is a fun-sounding name. This is a channel of water that is tidal. So what would happen was, back in the day, travellers and the early adopting tourists in the area who wanted to visit Abu Dhabi Island would have to wait on the mainland for the tide to go out. And when the tide went out, it was low enough that you could then walk or take your camel across the wet sand onto the island. This is the origin of Al-Makta, which apparently means crossing point.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so whilst a bit inconvenient, you've got to wait for low tide to get across, that makes it a very defensible location. And to make it a little bit more secure, the locals built a stone tower on an islet smack in the middle of the waterway to guard over the crossing point. This is known as Al-Maktar Tower, and that was to guard what was, back then, just a little fishing village and pearling community of Abu Dhabi. But today, that little tower in the middle of that stream is still there. You can go and visit it.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
You can actually go inside.
You cannot go inside because it's in the middle of the channel.
My rubber dinghy says otherwise.
Well, you can try, and I'd very much be interested in how it works out for you. But yeah, it's still there. You can see it from the shore, but you can't visit it per se. They also built a little fort on the mainland, which was believed to be built in the beginning of the 19th century. And that is on the mainland side of this channel.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not massive. It's like a little 2-story structure. It looks a little bit what I've seen of the Alamo. It's that kind of low fortified sort of structure. But these are some of the oldest buildings that are still today in Abu Dhabi. You can go and visit them if you like.
Maybe I will.
So that was enough for Abu Dhabi for a century or so. It was fine. It wasn't a major modern metropolis, as we've discussed. But in the 1930s, Abu Dhabi signed its contracts for kicking off the hunt for oil. And consequently, that also kicks off the beginning of this modernising spree. And oil companies are not going to wait around for low tide to get to Abu Dhabi. They want to get over there as and when they want to, right?
Yeah, you need to increase that pace. And that means roads.
Does need mean roads, and in 1949 a causeway was built out of rough blocks of stone and cement, but you could go across at all times then. You didn't have to wait for high and low tide. That was the beginning of the taming of Al-Maktar, if you like.
Camels would be quite good to get across a river, I reckon, because they're quite tall and also their necks are long. So I reckon an 8-foot river you could probably cross on a camel without it drowning.
You probably could. I don't think the camel would necessarily want to go with you, but that's a problem for you to solve, Ryan. So a causeway, just for other listeners, I'm sure you know exactly what it is just a kind of raised platform essentially across a body of water. But what that does is it blocks the flow of water. So this is a tidal channel. So what would happen is that this barrier would kind of work as a bit of a dam as well. So it would disrupt the flow. So at very high tides and during storms, the water would overrun and the whole land around would become a swampy mess. And there was an article in the National News that talks about this with a quote from a guy called David Riley, who was working for an Abu Dhabi bank at the time. He said, "It made the journey to the causeway horrendous, and it was not unusual to see many vehicles abandoned, all stuck in the mud."
Oh, that's rough.
Yeah, your causeway is a good idea in one sense because it gives you a channel that you can go across at all times, but it's disrupted the flow of water, so now everything becomes a big swamp every now and then.
And may I add also a massive breeding ground for mosquitoes.
Oh yeah, that's definitely something that I'm not going to think about anymore because they love me.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an improvement you can get across, but it's definitely not ideal. So a plan was developed to build a bridge across the channel.
Okay.
So A contract was agreed between a Canadian project management company and the ruler, Sheikh Shakbut bin Sultan. And the next year, Shakbut ceased to be the ruler and Zayed come in. But it will not surprise you to learn that Zayed was still in favour of this same bridge plan. On it went. They engaged an engineering firm from Austria called Wagner Biro. And in 1967, they started building the bridge.
Okay. How big is this causeway? Like, how far did they have to go?
The bridge is about 300 metres long. So
Okay. Well, that's quite big.
Yeah, it's a significant bridge. It's they finished it in 1968. It was built over it was built over the site of the causeway, so it follows the same route. I assume that's because where the channel was shallowest as well. It makes sense, but it also makes for a nice connection to this history of Abu Dhabi. This crossing point that was once wait for low tide, cross your camel, becomes a causeway, becomes a bridge. This modern bridge is now still on the same ancient crossing point from hundreds of years ago.
Wow.
So at the time, modern marvel called the Al Makta Bridge, they retained the name Al Makta. It was about 300 metres long, as I've said. It was a steel arch. It's got a clear span of 90 metres. So a clear span, which I had to Google, I'll admit, it's the distance between the inner faces of the supports that carry the bridge's load. So the uprights that hold it up. The clear span is the distance between the uprights, essentially.
Oh, okay. Right.
Clear bridge area.
Yeah, fine.
So, on August 6th, 1968, a black Mercedes was the first car to cross the new bridge connecting Abu Dhabi to the mainland. Have a guess as to who was in that car?
George Clooney.
Think again. More Abu Dhabi based.
Was it Sheikh Zayed?
It was Sheikh Zayed. He was,
wow.
as ever, intimately connected with all of this development.
George Clooney was driving, though.
Yeah, probably. He could probably have afforded to hire him. So the bridge opens, but even then, the tarmac of the road basically ran out at the end of the bridge. So it connected Abu Dhabi to the mainland, but it's a long way away from a connection from Abu Dhabi to Dubai, which is a long road that we see today. There was a Dubai-Abu Dhabi highway was proposed in 1968 by the Sheikhs of Abu Dhabi and Dubai, and that was approved in 1971, and they started construction through the 70s, and that didn't actually finish until 1980.
Wow, so the bridge came first?
Bridge came first. The bridge connected Abu Dhabi to the mainland.
That seems unusual. You'd think that you would build the highway, the road, and then as part of that, build a bridge at the passes that are an impasse.
Well, I think the link from Abu Dhabi to Dubai was less important than the link from the oil fields to Abu Dhabi originally.
Yeah,
so that bridge becomes more important from that perspective. So as Abu Dhabi grows, the Al Maktar Bridge proved insufficient to keep up with the traffic needed, unsurprisingly perhaps. Before even the 1970s were finished, a new bridge was constructed. The Musafa Bridge was built in 1977 or maybe 1978. I've seen both reported.
Wait, what? They knocked the other bridge down, the first bridge, and built another one?
No, they added more bridges. So the Al Maktar opened in 1968. The Musafa Bridge was built in 1977-78, and then 30 years after it was originally built, a second section was added to the Al Maktar Bridge, adding additional lanes to the bridge.
Well, I guess that makes sense. You've got more people, right?
Well, exactly. So it's quite interesting because now if you travel into Abu Dhabi from the mainland, you're on the original first bridge that connected the mainland to Abu Dhabi. But if you're travelling out on what is ostensibly the same bridge, you're actually on a 30-year younger bridge. And even that wasn't enough. In 2010, another bridge was built parallel to the Al Maktar called the Sheikh Zayed Bridge. Imagine that. That added 2 4-lane roads which have the capacity to carry 16,000 vehicles an hour across from the mainland. Yeah.
Okay, wow.
So
that's insane. They went bridge crazy.
They did go bridge crazy because they needed that traffic to be carried. So now there are 3 multi-lane bridges linking Abu Dhabi to the mainland, capable of carrying thousands and thousands of cars an hour. But in the middle of the 3 stands the Al Maksa Bridge, which was actually restored and refurbished in 2022. And so it links not just Abu Dhabi to the mainland, but it's also, given it's on that same spot as the causeway and the same spot as the camels would cross, it also links the present to the past. The busy executives driving his sports car across the bridge, he's still taking the same route a man in his camel would have done hundreds of years ago.
Yeah, that's cool. That's a nice image, isn't it?
So that is a bridge in its metaphorical and actual terms in every way.
Yeah. No, I love that. I'm wondering why they didn't just build a tunnel rather than a bridge. Because digging through sand is much easier than rock.
Famously easy to dig through sand. Yes, that's side interesting note. That's why I'm told the tube line in the UK, in London, does not travel far south. Sandy soil in the south of London, so it doesn't come to Croydon, for example, because the soil is very sandy. It's harder to tunnel through, whereas you've got London clay north of the river, much easier to tunnel through, which is why most of the tube network is north of the river.
Yeah, they didn't build one to Croydon because no one wants to go to Croydon.
Abu Dhabi, shut up. So there it is, Ryan. Bridges, water as a blockade, a protective feature, but also as a defining feature in a way of this contact between the island and the mainland.
Abu Dhabi loo. I should have said that on the last one.
Yeah, we'll just put it in now.
Because of the toilets. Abu Dhabi loo.
Yeah, that would have been brilliant.
I'll put it in here.
No one will notice, don't worry. Oh, dear.
When you're rushed, running late, when you've got to get to work, I will bear your weight. I'll carry you across the tide and get you to your job. I'm a bridge over Abu Dhabi. I will take the strain. I'm a bridge over Abu Dhabi. I'll remove the pain. When you're heading home late at night, when brake lights fill your view, I will ease your ride to help you through and drive 'em by to get home safe and sound. I'm a bridge over Abu Dhabi. I'm up in the air. I'm a bridge over Abu Dhabi. I will get you there. I'm a bridge over Abu Dhabi. I will get you there. I will get you there. I will get you there. Well, I'm better than a tunnel anyhow.
Well, Ryan, I very much enjoyed that. But Abu Dhabi's time is up. We must look to the future, Ryan. It's time to check out the next episode, and that means Derzolating the time, place, and topic.
All right, we can do that. Here it comes. I'll switch it on.
Dust the sand off.
From a sandstorm. Okay, right, here we go. And our place is
Morocco.
Ooh.
All right, Morocco.
Morocco. Yeah, that
like
sounds...
that. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and our time is the Vedic period.
Don't know what that is.
Ancient India. That's 1,500 to 500 BCE. So 3,000 years ago.
Ooh.
Right. Okay. Well, in Morocco.
In Morocco.
Sure.
Well, they were doing all that stuff.
Of course they were. Right. And it all comes down to the topic then, Pete.
It does.
It does. All right. And our topic is literature.
Ooh.
Right.
Ooh.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's what it is. So
it's literature in the Vedic period in Morocco.
yeah, that's what we've got.
Tune in, gang. We'll get there. Don't worry. We've never let you down yet, have we?
Am I supposed to say so?
I don't know.
Not yet. Not yet.
All right, well, that's the next one, but this has been our show for this week. Thank you so much for listening. If you would like to get in touch about any of the things we've talked about on the show, or if you just want to say hi, you can reach out through the website, hhepodcast.com, or email Pete and Ryan at hhepodcast.com.
Now, we'd love to hear from you, and you never know, if you do reach out to us, you might end up featured on a future show.
And if you're on the social media, Mastodon, Instagram, Facebook, X, Blue Sky, or anything else we're on, you can find us at HHE Podcast.
That's right, and if you subscribe to those, you're going to get an alert every time we post extra content, like facts we didn't use, photos from the show, and just other general bits, bobs, sand, oil, photos of ports, and toilets.
Yes, so we'll send a picture of a toilet and some oil. That's something to look forward to, I'm sure. Of course, we'll be back again soon with
The Verdict.
But until then, a huge thank you to you, Ryan.
And a huge thanks to you, Pete.
And that's it. I guess all that's left to say is...
Abu Dhabi do!
Abu Dhabi don't.
History happened everywhere.
Hey, Ryan.
Hey, Pete.
Why are you looking so pleased with yourself?
Well, you'll never guess what I've just discovered.
Go on.
Oil!
What? Oil? Oh, that's amazing. How did you find it?
Well, I was taking the garbage out,
Yeah.
and something fell out of the bag and it just rolled down the driveway.
Okay.
And right underneath the neighbour's car.
Right?
So I bent down to grab it, and that's when I saw a big, black, shiny puddle just sitting there. So, long story short, I found oil, and we're going to be rich.
Oh, wait. Hang on. You said it was under the neighbour's car.
Right underneath it, yeah.
Oh, my God. You're such an idiot.
Am I?
Yes. Think about it. You're underneath the neighbour's car.
Yeah.
And you found oil.
Yeah.
So what does that tell you?
Dunno.
It means you discovered oil on the neighbour's property.
Oh, right.
Which means they're the rich ones, not us.
Yeah, I didn't think of that.
Oh my God, that is so typical. You were this close to making me a billionaire and you've gone and discovered oil for someone else instead.
I know. Sorry, Pete.
Oh, if only it had rolled a few feet to the left, I'd be living the life of luxury I deserve.
Yeah, that is bad luck.
I mean, they'll probably build an empire off that oil, buy a yacht, start a dynasty, and I'll be sitting here eating fish fingers, checking the back of the sofa for loose change.
Hey, maybe they'll let us borrow some of the money.
Well, I doubt it. They won't even lend us their lawnmower.
Ah, well. You'll be a billionaire one day, Pete. I know it.
You reckon?
Yeah.
Thanks, mate. Ah, well. In the meantime, cup of tea?
Oh, yeah, that'd be great. Thanks.
No, I meant make me a cup of tea.
Oh, right. Okay.
While I'm in the kitchen, look for more oil.
Righto. Oh, I found oil.
Olive oil doesn't count.
Righto. I haven't found oil.
One day, Pete. One day.
Right, I'm going to hit stop.
Hello, lovely YouTube folks. This is a special message just for you.
Yeah, thanks for listening all the way to the end.
Now, if you enjoyed the show, please let us know your thoughts in the comments below.
And don't forget to take a moment to hit that like and smash subscribe.
Hit that like.
Yeah,
Smash subscribe.
yeah, it's what people say.
Do they, though?
Yeah, only the cool kids.
And you think you're the cool kids, do you?
No, we're the cool kids.
Oh, yeah, I suppose we are. All right, smash that like button, people. Smash it real good.
Oh, yeah. Nice.